Good way, go scan it. Welcome to part two of week 5. If you haven't seen our part 1 video for this week, check it out. We talked briefly about the importance and our relationship to medicines, and we touch on a few ideas that we'll follow up with in this video, um, as it kind of relates to some stories and ideas, or some ideas from the story of the Peacemaker or his journey. So in the first video, I mentioned the importance of an idea that a lot of the schools are emphasizing now, SEL, or social emotional learning, and how that's important for the cognitive development of the students, and how, as they're asking us as teachers to try and emphasize the emotional well-being of the students, and that's helping them to understand the complexity of the emotional states they're experiencing, and helping them to find ways to verbalize and express what they're feeling. So as they do that, it helps their creative capacity and their critical thinking skills as adults. And how that connects to our medicines is, I think, emblematic or representative of the medicines. Our relationship to the medicines, again, is symbolic of our relationship to our children. And I told some information about the importance of strawberries as a medicine and as a plant, and its relationship to the earth, and has it being representative of our relationship to our children. That it grows low to the ground, unlike a lot of other fruits and berries, and like our children, like us, they're still closely connected to the earth, to the Creator, to the spiritual realm, and we need to foster that. So we have to take the time to try and teach our children to understand those complex layers of emotional states and feelings they have, and help them verbalize it and put words to their feelings, so that they can figure it out and communicate it and share what they're thinking and what they're feeling. And so this idea of SEL, social emotional learning, is something, Western culture is kind of understanding that needs to be emphasized. And again, we find that we have those elements built already into our culture intuitively. And unfortunately, because of historical trauma, the mechanisms that are built into our culture that allow us to teach those things, to teach those skills inherently, get lost because of the historical trauma, the things that happen to our communities and our people and our knowledge base. We're unable to communicate those things, to put our kids through the rigors of childhood, so they can learn to think and solve problems and be creative. They lose that capacity, or it becomes more difficult to teach it to them in ways that they're not genetically or biologically designed to. We hear that discussion all the time amongst adults, is that Western education isn't designed for Native people. And that is true, it is in some capacities. It doesn't suit us. There are other ways to foster our intellectual skills. And so our relationship to the medicines is representative of our relationship to our children. And I know my grandma and other elders I've heard describe that, when a family has a new baby, it's described as it's good medicine for them. And it can be. It can bring about a change in the people, in the parents, for the positive, that benefits the community as a whole, that benefits that child. And with a lot that's been going on in our communities lately, the discussions that have been happening, I think, is representative of our changing perception of our relationships to our family and community members. We want to make better decisions that will benefit our children for generations. And what I like to kind of add on top, what I add on it when I consider things like that, making decisions with my own children, is not just like the immediacy, but that progress over gradual change over a period of time. Change doesn't happen instantaneously, and we see that we see that, but we lose track of it, like in the story of the Peacemaker, in his journey. We see that change of our people from warring and cannibalistic to more civilized and democratic. But it took generations. It took the life of the peacemaker, the decades he was alive, to travel back and forth between communities, describing what he understood would be a good process for deliberating on decisions that benefited a community. I don't think anybody understood the instant he said, hey, we need to live by these 3 laws. It took some time to convince people to do things. So he would have to talk with, groups of people at a time, and they would come back and have questions about what he was describing. And he had to travel between communities. And it's not like cars where we can go and be somewhere in a few hours. It took days to get somewhere. And so the change happened, but over the course of, a person's lifetime, but it took longer than even that. Was the idea of our confederacy fully formed, even, in the peacemaker's lifetime? Did it start with him? Were our people already trying to find a way to resolve disputes peacefully before he was born? And he was just, he acted as a catalyst. He was one that helped to bring some ideas that seemed to make sense, and maybe he was sort of a neutral party that people would listen to. And we hear that similar theme even in Gaiweo, the life of, across the course of the life of Handsome Lake, which brought about a revival of our spirituality and our traditional culture. It didn't happen overnight. It took the course of his life to experience what he experienced, and decide that those were the changes he wanted to make for himself, and then in turn go and share those ideas with people. And of course, some people are more open to ideas immediately than others, but it took time. He traveled amongst communities and had to stay there for years and share his ideas, and for more people to become accepting of them. So the conversations we're having in our communities today are certainly important, and understanding that change can happen, but it may take time, and it definitely takes cooperation. And we again reflect on the theme from the Peacemaker's journey. He didn't do it by himself. He was probably inspired by ideas and things his mother observed raising him. And then when he realized he needed to travel to this territory and share his ideas, it took time for him to find help in Hayenwenta and Jigunsase. And even refining his ideas, I'm sure he didn't come along and just say, hey, this is the definite plan of what we have to do. He may have deliberated with both of them and their experience to find out what they thought might work best, and put everything together and travel together and share what they had kind of come to together. So the idea that we work together over a determined period of time, I think is what's important. And we make those decisions on behalf of our kids, on behalf of our children. Always trying to, and it can get really heavily emotional. We care about our children. We want to make sure we have the best for them. So we have to, we don't know what the unintended consequences can be of our decisions, and that's why we have to take things into consideration carefully. Like I mentioned in previous videos about the importance of decision making and what guides it. How we can pull these ideas from our traditional teachings that help us understand the times that we're living in and help us make good decisions. So I know for myself, working with my kids, trying to help them understand what's going on, talking to them about what they're experiencing, what they're seeing, and I was talking about it in a frame of reference from our traditional culture, whether it's the relationship between clans or between elements of Ganonio or elements of just our traditional ideas. Anything that we might understand and can find a way to relate it to them so they have something, because this is built into us. This is the way we understand the world, and this is the way we can learn it and continue to learn it, but it takes time and it takes cooperation. And we have to understand our limitations of what we're capable of contributing without overextending ourselves. So I hope this is helpful. I hope you find a way to improve your social and emotional learning. I know I always am. Again, like I mentioned in my previous videos, I'm always, anxious to talk with my brothers and sisters and help understand each other's experience, especially in childhood. It helps us understand who we are as adults. And my mom's always favorite saying from the movie, who I can't remember, maybe you can put it in the comments. We spend our whole adulthood trying to figure out our childhood, and it's true. I hope we can all find a way to keep ourselves on the path, and work together, and change can occur over time. Let me know what you think. Donato.